works. I hope everybody can hear. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here with us to stand in solidarity with the hunger strikers in Guantanamo Bay. If anything exposes the cynical brutality of the imperial American state, it is their willingness to first of all deceive us about the hunger strike, and secondly to ensure that the people who are conducting it are brutalized even further. So we are here to make sure that this is not forgotten. And therefore I say again, thank you all for being here. We're going to have a few speakers, obviously, and I'd like to read out a message of support from Caroline Lucas MP, who has been absolutely consistent, indeed persistent, in her support for example, the case of Shaka Armour, which she is going to mention in this statement. She says, "It is deeply worrying that Shaka Armour, a legal permanent resident of the UK, with a wife and 4 children living in London, remains incarcerated in Guantanamo Bay. This, despite the fact that he has never been charged with any offence and was officially cleared for transfer out of Guantanamo in June 2007. During his 11-year detention, Shaka has been tortured by US agents, for example by having his head repeatedly banged against a wall. And he has witnessed the torture of another UK resident. He has spent more than 1,000 nights in a windowless, isolated cell, and when first detained was starved, kept awake for 9 days straight, and chained into positions that made the slightest movement unbearable. His treatment and the existence of Guantanamo Bay is a clear reminder that some of the worst consequences of the war on terror remain with us today. The ongoing torture, that is the hopelessness of indefinite detention, has resulted in Shaka embarking on a desperate hunger strike that has lasted, so far, 100 days. The impact of 11 years of detention, of mistreatment, and now this hunger strike mean that his health is increasingly fragile. There is a very real chance that unless he is released as a matter of urgency, that Shaka will die in Guantanamo. It is now more critical than ever that we keep up pressure on the US and on the British government as the only way to secure justice and freedom for Shaka. And I think if we could hear a few of Shaka's own words right now, that would be a good thing at this point. Thank you.
Shaka Armour reveals exclusively to the observer the pain of being separated from his family for 12 years. As of today, I've spent more than 11 years in Guantanamo Bay. To be precise, it's been 4,084 long days and nights. I've never been charged with any crime. I've never been allowed to see the evidence that the US once pretended they had against me. It's all secret, even the statements they tortured out of me. In 2007, roughly halfway through my ordeal, I was cleared for release by the Bush administration. In 2009, under Obama, all 6 of the US frontline intelligence agencies combined to clear me again, but I'm still here. Every day in Guantanamo is torture, as was the time they held me before that in Bagram and Kandahar, air force bases in Afghanistan. It's not really the individual acts of abuse, the strapido, that's the process refined by the Spanish Inquisition, where they hung you from your wrists so your shoulders begin to dislocate. The sleep deprivation and the kicks and punches. It's a combined experience. My favourite book here, I've read it over and over, has been 1984 by George Orwell. Torture is for torture and the system is for the system. More than a decade of my life has been stolen from me for no good reason. I resent that, of course I do. I have missed the birth of my youngest son and some of the most wonderful years with all my 4 children. I love being a father and I always work to do it as best as I can. So obviously I want to go home to London. Of course I do. But I'm never going to beg. If I have to die here, I want my children to know that I died for a principle, without bowing to my abusers. I've been on hunger strike for more than 60 days now. I have lost nearly a quarter of my body weight. I barely notice all of my medical ailments anymore. The back pain from the beatings I've taken, the rheumatism from the frigid air conditioning, the asthma, other toxic sprays that used to abuse us. There is an endless list. And now 24/7, as the Americans say, I have the ache of hunger. Have you ever tried going without food for 24 hours? Today I'm on my 68th day, but a man in my block has been on strike since 2005. Can you imagine it? He's only alive today because the Americans force-feed him, preventing him from making that ultimate statement of principle. The same one they have on their new hemisphere license plates. Give me freedom or give me death. In truth, while I am horrified by the suffering around me, I am also encouraged there is more solidarity among the prisoners than ever before. The military is not being honest about the number of men on strike. Most of us are refusing to eat. The military responds with violence, as if that would break us. It all draws us all together. Now they are sending in the goon squad, the forcible cell extraction, or FCE team, to beat me up every time I ask for something, whether it is my medicine, a bottle of water, or the right to shower. That only reinforces my resolve, and my lawyer tells me there are people out there who care. That more than 100,000 people back home in Britain have signed a petition demanding that Parliament should debate my case. I hope I do not die in this awful place. I want to hug my children and watch them as they grow. But if it is God's will that I should die here, I want to die with dignity. I hope if the worst comes to the worst, that my children will understand that I cared for the rights of those suffering around me, almost as much as I care for them.
Shaka's family living in Battersea can be sure of support from their MP, Jane Ellison, who has done very good work, and also from the Save Shaka Armour campaign that is very proactive and is indeed outside Parliament, has been during this week and will be at the beginning of next week. Here is Joy from the Save Shaka Armour campaign.
I'm probably better without the loudspeaker. First of all, I'd like to say that all of the actions we're doing, any one of them might be the very trigger which brings home Shaka Armour and helps in Guantanamo. So the words that Shaka said, particularly at the end when he said he knows that 100,000 people and more signed the e-petition. It's a great comfort to him that people have not forgotten. And that's what we are here to do. To say we will not forget. We have not forgotten. The Americans think that they can hide the truth. But the truth will out. The truth of what is happening just now in Guantanamo and what has happened there for all those years. The crime of Guantanamo will never be forgotten, and we will be witness to the truth coming out. They're trying to hide the truth of the hunger strike. But we know through the lawyers and through their statements, through Shaka, through other letters, from all the detainees. They are all there witnessing to the hunger strike and many of them are being force-fed. And the Americans, not only are they not listening, but they are upping the torture, upping the punishments. First thing they've been doing is to take away their possessions. If they're on hunger strike, they get into put into solitary, even if they were compliant and were having association. They're in solitary to dehumanise them, to separate them from each other. Shaka was always in solitary, but they take away anything and everything. And Shaka, in his cell, he has written that they've taken away his back brace for his bad back, his pressure socks for his swollen ankles, his sheet, his toothbrush, his shoes, his precious legal documents. They've ripped the pictures that he put on the wall for his children. And not only that, they still were providing the food that he was refusing. And after he told them, do not bring the food, they locked up the letterbox in the door, locked it up so that he was completely isolated, just with a concrete shelf to sleep on and the cold air from the extractor. So the punishment, they've increased the punishments. And not only that, whenever the prisoners ask for anything, even for the water, they send in the forcible extraction cell units. 8 guards dressed up as Darth Vader in riot gear come in and beat them up. The heaviest one knees them on the ground and their arms are spread eagle. Whatever they ask for, even a bottle of water. They're trying to, and also the force feeding. We've seen a mock-up of force feeding. It's even worse than that. The tube is very thick. It's through the nose, into the stomach, and it takes many hours. And if they can't breathe, or if they vomit, they're taken to a dry cell. And if they vomit, they're taken back for more, ensure the liquid food to be pumped in. They're trying to break their spirits, trying to break the hunger strike. They say it's a bit like a razor going down your throat. It is so painful. It is the most painful experience that they have had, the hunger strike and the force feeding. And Obama says he doesn't want any of those guys there to die. Yet what is he doing about it? He's certainly not listening to the prisoners' demands. All they want is for justice. All they want is for some humanity. They want to be free. And they are willing to even lose the only thing they have, which is their life. Our message to Obama is simple. Do what you pledged to do. Close Guantanamo. You can start now with those that you have already said can be released from Guantanamo. The ones that haven't been charged. You can start now. Get the Red Cross in. Get the flights organised. It wouldn't take long. And that would mean the prisoners would have hope. Stop the force feeding by giving them hope. And then, for those that are detained without any chance of release, without any chance of a trial, because they haven't got evidence against them, they should be given freedom. And for those, if there is any evidence, which I doubt, because they've suffered so much, the high-valued prisoners, let them put the federal courts in. At least they have the justice of knowing what is the evidence against them, and then they could answer it. So it's not difficult. It wouldn't have been difficult for David Cameron to have spoken to Obama. He was there for a week. He could have spoken to Obama about Shaka. I don't think he did. We don't think that William Hague has fulfilled his promise to only consider making a public plea for Shaka. But we have to put pressure on these people. We have to go through the motions of being polite to them when we want to shame them into doing something for those prisoners, for those poor prisoners isolated in Guantanamo. But what we do, all we can do is our best. And at least those people who've written, who've signed petitions, who've stood in the streets, we know that we're trying our best for Shaka and for all the other prisoners. He's not the only one. They're all somebody's sons. They are all of them, some of them fathers, and their sons have been denied their life. So we can only guarantee that we will carry on and do our best and make the government hear us. And if you can join us, the Save Shaka Armour campaign, we're outside Parliament in solidarity with the hunger strike and to demand that Parliament, the mother of Parliament, is respected by the Americans. Don't just talk in your bubble, do something. Do something now. It isn't too late, but it might be too late for Shaka and the rest if nothing happens in the next few months, next few days or weeks. It's a very anxious time right now, but all we can do is to stand up for justice.
We have the daughter of a hunger striker here, all the way from Birmingham. What is your name? Zainab. And Zainab wants to say a few words to us. And I'll hold this for you, if you like, and you can speak about your father. That was good. Yes. Thank you. Free my father. Say it again, because those people over there have to hear what you have to say. So say it again to them.
Free my father.
Yes. Once more, and then we will all join in with you. Yes?
Free my father.
Free my father! Yes. Can you tell us about her father, please, Aisha? Just a short description.
Very briefly, this little girl's father is an American citizen. He's originally from Palestine, and he moved his family to Iraq in 2002, slightly before the invasion. He was then picked up for various charges. I'm afraid I don't have that much information about it. And he has been held by the Iraqi authorities, I believe, since 2004 or 2003. And the United States, as it does nothing with the hunger strikers, as it does nothing for Bradley Manning, as it does nothing for many of its own other citizens, it does nothing for this little girl's father. He's been on hunger strike for the last few months because he claims that he has been imprisoned illegally and unjustly, and he's doing exactly the same kind of protest as the men in Guantanamo Bay. And this girl and her mother have actually been protesting outside the United States Embassy right here for the last few weeks, every Saturday on their own. And today they're lucky to have just a little bit more solidarity. Thank you.
And it celebrates the courage of these children who are prepared to face a crowd like you and to demand what is their absolute basic right to a family life. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you very much, and well done. I'm not bothering with that machine for the moment. I'm going to move on to a couple of poems, one of which is written by one of Shaka's children. I'm going to start, however, with a poem by Shaka himself, and the tone of it shows how well he understands what he's going through. in a context that is much bigger than just what's happening to him. This is his poem, Is It True? Sorry, I found the wrong one. It's They Fight for Peace. This is the poem. They fight for peace. Peace, they say. Peace of mind. Peace on earth. Peace of what kind? I see them talking, arguing, fighting. What kind of peace are they looking for? Why do they kill? What are they planning? Is it just talk? Why do they argue? Is it so simple to kill? Is this their plan? Yes, of course. They talk, they argue, they kill. They fight for peace. And now Val is going to read a poem by one of the children.
Hear our cry by the children of Guantanamo. Help us bring our father home. Brothers, sisters, come along. He has never done anything wrong. He is innocent, that is well known. Locked up far away in a no-entry zone. He's been tortured, he's been torn. Do you know how we live on our own? Struggling, thinking where do we belong? We have missed him for very, very long. We can't see him, we can't phone. We try to be patient, but we can't go on. All we can do is cry and mourn. When will he return? No signs are shown. We wish after night comes new dawn. Let us remind you, we are not alone. Allah Almighty, keep us strong.
We've got a sort of open mic without a mic, and if anybody would like to just volunteer to come and say a few words, it would be really great to hear from you. I know we've got Noel from South London, Peace Council, and somebody else?
Ben.
Ben, and it would be good to hear from either one of you. Ben, you're near. Great, thanks very much. Do you want this horrible thing?
My name's Ben, I'm from an organisation called Veterans for Peace. We're stood outside here today, outside this American embassy, but we could quite easily be stood outside of Downing Street. It's important to remember that Guantanamo is one prison, a prison that we know about, amongst many secret prisons that have come and gone over the last 10 years. Camp Nama in Baghdad International Airport, the detention centre inside of the Special Forces base at Balad, a massive prison at Bagram Air Base, another prison at Kandahar, and the conditions there are similar to what is going on in Guantanamo. The difference being that we don't know who these people are, a lot of them. And we can also be outside of Downing Street because our own government is just as liable, just as complicit in the crime that is going on in Guantanamo as these people. Our politicians have had 10 years to push the Americans on this, and they haven't. They come up with empty promises last week or the week before. Haig says he's going to bring it up. He's got no interest in bringing it up because we are equally guilty of what has gone on there. We are in a coalition with the Americans, just like the Austrians were in coalition with the Germans. Whatever the Americans do, we are also guilty of. And don't be fooled into thinking that we are somehow the benign partners in this. Some of the guys who ended up in Guantanamo were detained by British forces. Some of the guys who end up in Balad and fucking Nama were detained by British forces. But we don't want to know about that story. Thanks a lot for that.
Thanks very much. Noel, we've got some words from you. Thank you.
I was going to read an extract from Andy Worthington's book called The Road to Guantanamo, but there are children present. The torture that they used to subject the prisoners to was horrendous, and I'm going to have to ask you to imagine anything that you could imagine that would be the worst thing that you could have to endure would be one of the things that surely would be on the list. And time after time not just one, but several, say, look, they tortured me so badly, in the end I just gave up. I told them what they wanted to hear. And this was the procedure in Guantanamo, and other people would tell stories about other prisoners and goodness knows what, and about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and Shaka knows a lot. And when he comes out, it could be embarrassing, couldn't it? And I was talking to Jeremy Scargill the other day, who's just produced a book called Dirty Wars, and his feeling is that people were in Guantanamo not for any good reason, so they're held for not for any good reason, except that it could be very embarrassing when they come out. He even suggested that it might be possible that Obama, because of the risk of the embarrassment, might just let it carry on and leave it in the in tray for the next president, another 4 years. And what I want to tell you now is that we cannot weaken, we've got to sustain our campaigning if we're going to achieve anything. I have deliberately provoked the authorities in Whitehall. When I write to William Hague, I get a letter back from the counter-terrorism department, and I wrote to William Hague last time and I said, look, this counter-terrorism department is totally useless, it's done nothing. And then I got a letter back from the counter-terrorism department that said, Noel, you should know we can do nothing, he's not got a British passport. But they went on to say, John Kerry came recently, and I'm sorry, but Shaka was not on the agenda. So William Hague didn't even raise it when John Kerry came. So what concerns me is, who on earth is it that is actually supposed to be doing something to get Shaka back? Let's make sure that we're there to remind them that we need someone to do something to get Shaka back. We know Jane Ellison is working for it. We know that there's going to be a debate in Parliament. We want all the MPs to be there to bring pressure to try and get something done. Thank you very much.
I want to echo Noel's remarks. If we do nothing, we can guarantee that nothing will happen. So we have to keep going. I just want to remind you that the Save Shaka Rama campaign will be at Parliament Square Monday and Tuesday of next week from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Please come and join them. And we have another speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Kieran O'Reilly. I'm from the London Catholic Worker, and we've just come up from our European gathering, 20 of us, to join you here in solidarity. Our people in New York a number of years ago illegally flew to Cuba and walked 50 miles to Guantanamo and held a vigil there, and out of that came Witness Against Torture. We've been very active this week in solidarity in the United States. I'm also a former prisoner of the United States. I served 13 months in prison for damaging a B-52 bomber during the first Gulf War and lead up to the massacre over Iraq. And I know that others here have also been to prison, and prison is it's a fascist situation generally, and it's there to dehumanise and isolate you. And I have been involved in Australia